Hello and welcome to episode 419 of the show. Now, for those of you who are, what will I say, aware about Nigerian culture, you know about the association with the numbers 4, 1, and 9 with Nigeria. And because of that, I was kind of hesitant to label this as episode 419. But the thing is, since I started labeling the episodes in a serial manner, I figured I might as well just keep with it because I can't just go from episode 418 to 420. That looked like a mistake or that I don't know how to count. Now, for those of you who don't know the backstory behind the number 419 and Nigerians, there's this, what should I call it, fraud. Yeah, it's called advance fee fraud. Anyway, in the Western Hemisphere, it's called advance fee fraud. And during the military regime in Nigeria, I can't remember which military head of state at the time, there was some legislation passed, Decree 419, and it was against advance fee fraud. Now, for those of you who don't know anything about advance fee fraud, that's basically the whole, that scam about the Nigerian prince. And I really cringe whenever I'm listening to other podcasts, foreign podcasts, American podcasts usually, and then somebody says something about the Nigerian prince, and it's cringeworthy. So if you haven't heard about 419 before, especially its associations to Nigeria, then go ahead, Google it. It's just some interesting trivia to know about. But if you are a foreigner, rest assured that the majority of us are actually honest, hardworking folks, and so you shouldn't have any problem running into 419ers or running into a Nigerian prince. As you can tell from this, the podcast, the general thrust of the podcast, a lot of us are hustlers, grinders, self-employed people, business owners, investors, inventors, all trying to do our own thing. And that's the reason why I continue to do what it is that I do over here on this podcast. Keep producing material that helps people to add value out there in the marketplace, and also to bring their ideas, bring their products, bring their services to a wider market. Yeah, because a lot of us are hard workers and we're not scammers, and so it's nice to put the wisdom out there so that people can have all the information that they need to take things to the next level. Now, with that out of the way, I'd also like to say thanks for those of you who reach out from time to time with feedback. It's invaluable because it helps me keep a pulse on what's working, what's not, and the kind of things that you guys would want to, what you guys would like to hear. Because, for instance, yesterday's recording, that's episode 418, and I think that was titled Networking After Dark or Networking After Hours, something like that. Basically, about this whole idea of in some Nigerian circles, in Abuja and Lagos anyway, those are the mega, should I say mega cities? Well, the big cities, the big urban areas in which I've lived in. So I'm aware of this culture, where this business culture, where there's a thing that business gets done after hours in the club or in social settings and things like that. So if you're serious about networking, then you ought to be hanging out with the guys in the club or at the bars or other social settings. And so yesterday's podcast episode was exploring that idea that can you actually say drinking with the boys at the club or at the bar or hanging out with your babes at this bar, can we really call that networking? And so those were the ideas that I examined there, and I just thought it was an interesting and maybe a creative episode to do. I didn't think anybody would relate to it. But surprisingly, I got hit up on DM, and there's a photographer who said that that was his actual qualms, that he thinks that his business is suffering because he likes to hang out, he likes to chill, but he hasn't been able to make the connection between hanging out, chilling, and networking. And so for him, it was motivating coming across that particular episode. That's episode 418. If this is your first time of listening to the podcast, and you would like to get a sense of what he might have found valuable, then after you're done listening to this, just go check out episode 418 or Networking After Dark, Networking After Hours, or something like that. So yeah, he was jazzed up and motivated, because now he can see the connection between hanging out with the boys and shooting the shit and drinking beer, and he now sees the connection that you can actually be networking in those kinds of settings. And I've told him to try out some of the ideas that we put out in the podcast, and he should hit me up and let me know how it goes. So I'm really glad that there are folks like you out there who are deriving value from the podcast. So if you're one of those folks and you think that the podcast is giving you value, is giving you life, is helping you, is putting you in a good headspace, is giving you all the info that you need to take the next step, then please hit me up. WhatsApp, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. Hit me up, and let me have your testimony, as some of us like to say in church. So let me have your testimony, or let me know what kind of content works, where we should be heading with the show, ideas that we could explore some more. And most importantly, if you guys have some questions, if you think that the podcast episode had some things unanswered or some loopholes or some things you disagree with, let me know. It'll be nice to enrich and improve the conversation over here. So, with niceties out of the way, let's move on to episode 419, episode 419. Now, the average person has some reasonable concerns the first time they come in contact with you in a business setting. And that's because they don't know who you are, they haven't heard about your product or your service, and so it doesn't help if immediately you're trying to launch into your sales spiel and you're trying to convince them that yours is the latest, yours is the greatest, that they should buy from you, you're the most sophisticated, you have the latest in town, you're this, you're this, you're that, you're that. So it's not going to be helpful, because they have some concerns, and those concerns are very reasonable. So if you look at things from this angle, then it's really obvious why people have issues with our pricing from the get-go. Because for the average person, price is a proxy for value. And so because of that, of course, they're going to be uncertain. Because they know nothing else about wedding photography or wedding planning or what goes into making a wedding cake. The only thing that they have is price as a heuristic, as a shortcut. So they're using that to gauge the amount of value that they're getting in the buying situation. And that's because they know absolutely nothing else. They don't know the cost of hiring a second shooter. They don't know the cost of buying Egyptian cotton to drape the halls. And they know nothing about sophisticated sugar fondant art crafting. And basically, they don't know whatever it is that goes on at the workshop behind the curtain. And so for them, the only information that they have is price, and that is what they are going to use as a shortcut to gauge how much value am I getting out of this situation. And of course, this is one of the most common objections that every business owner or self-employed person, every event professional, every service professional, this is one thing that we all have in common. We all get this objection. If you're new to the show, you're wondering what's an objection. An objection is a reason or a concern that the customer gives why they are not going to go ahead right now, or why they say they are not going to be able to work with you. So every time you hear objection, just remember it's a reason or it's a concern that they're giving about why we are not going to be able to move ahead. But for the rest of the podcast episode and in the podcast in general, I try to substitute the words. I try to use them. What's that word? I try to use them both at the same time. Objection, concern, what else? Questions. Yes, so objections, concerns, questions. I try to use them interchangeably. So this is one objection that we all hear. The price is too high. Now, very few customers are going to approach you and say that you didn't get the business because your price was too low. That's the inverse. Now, it does happen, and we can explore those scenarios at a later date. But what most of you are going to come across is people who say, your price is too high, your price is too high, your price is too high. There is that rare situation where somebody says, your price was too low, as in I gave the bid to Oga, and we're looking at this person, and we're looking at that person, and person A charged 600k, person B charged 582, and your own bid was 250. So they say, so Oga was thinking that maybe you're not pure, as in you don't know what's up, you don't know what you're doing, so we had to go one of the other people. So those situations do happen, where your inside man, your inside lady, the person who gave you the inside scoop will tell you that you didn't get it because the price was too low. But that is rare. Most of us here, you didn't get it because the price was too high. So in the midst of all these insecurities, they don't know who you are, they don't know how capable your product is, they don't know how capable your service is, they don't know anything about the business. So, with all that uncertainty, when you now put a price on the table, then, doing business with you becomes a really risky proposition. That's because of all these unknowns. So, now, given that we're all going to hear your price is too high, or that's really expensive, or in my own case, I think my second week as a wedding photographer, somebody said, you want to build house on top of my head? And, well, for now, that carries the record as the most interesting one that I've heard. Although after I spoke to my girlfriend about it, I mean my wife now, then we were, had I proposed? Okay, I can't remember. Well, anyway, so we weren't married at the time, so I spoke to her and she came up with some interesting response. She was like, yes, I should have said, yes, I want to build house on top of her head. Who doesn't want to build house or something like that? Well, anyway, that was a long time ago. So you're either going to hear stuff like that, your price is too high, that's really expensive, whatever it is. Or like some people say now, 350k, 600k, 1M in this Buhari economy, stuff like that. So if we're going to keep hearing all these kinds of things, I think it's a good idea for us to brainstorm ahead of time and figure out possible ways of dealing with this concern when people voice it, dealing with this concern, dealing with this objection, or dealing with this question. Because if we know that 98% of the people that we're going to approach are going to come up with this excuse that it's too high or this concern, then it's only smart that we should come up with a framework rather, for addressing these concerns beforehand. Because the worst time to think of an answer to a problem is when you have a potential client or a paying customer on hand. Because we want our buying experience and the customer interaction, the whole process with us, we want it to appear seamless, we want it to appear professional, and it's definitely not professional when you're watching somebody fumble through a response. So you say the price is too high, and then the person starts saying and smacking their lips and then looking away or whatever. It doesn't instill confidence. Now, there are a multitude of ways that you can drive the conversation forward when someone hits you with the your price is too high concern, your price is too high objection. We've already done a couple of podcast recordings on those in the past. I can't remember the exact details, but if this is your first time listening to the show, once you're done with this, just scroll back. You have to scroll quite a bit because we have over 400 episodes so far. And you'll be able to find podcast episodes that have things like objections in the title or price in the title. And listen to those and you'll get to hear some more tips and tricks there. So, where was I? Okay, yes, I was saying that there are lots of ways that we can tackle this, and we've done that in the past. And so please check previous episodes. Now, but no matter which way you choose to respond to this whole pricing thing, and no matter which sales professional that you follow, whether you're looking at my material or some other person out there, you will find that for the good professional anyway, the true sales aficionado, you'll find that we all have one thing in common. And we all agree that it's a bad idea to start arguing about why your price is the best, why your price is the greatest, why you are the most valuable on the market. It's a bad idea to start doing that, because they know nothing about the market or about you, and there's really no way for them to gauge why you are the best or you are the most valuable. If someone is convinced that your price is too high, it's not your argument that is going to change their mind. In fact, the average person is going to double down. Like, I've said something, you're too expensive, and you're still saying this, saying that. I might not tell you, but deep down, I'm doubling down, getting more firm, and getting more rooted, because nobody wants to be a pushover, nobody wants to be a walkover. And if you remember all the things that we said in the preamble in the beginning, so most likely they have some concerns that are behind this statement of your price is too high, but they're not conscious about what those concerns are. They haven't voiced it. So instead of trying to argue your case, why not ask questions to figure out what the chief concerns are? Figure out what the real reason that the person has. Because from that point, if you discover what the real point is, if you now want to argue against something, at least you know for sure what it is that you're arguing against. So don't just assume when they say your price is too high and you go into the price, you're trying to justify it, but meanwhile they're concerned about something else. Maybe because they think you are not qualified. Because remember, price for them is a proxy for value, and value is always a calculation in their own mind between how much am I putting down and what is it that I am getting. And so for them, if I'm putting down 500k, but this fellow looks like he's new in the game, he doesn't know what he's doing, then it's not a valuable transaction. If they think this fellow is new in the game, he doesn't know what he's doing, but I'm only dropping 100k, maybe it's worth the risk. So that's how it works. So let's figure out what the real concerns are. So if they say your price is too high, empathize with them and then ask a question. So you can say, my sister, everything's expensive these days. Or like, okay guys, I have to apologize because I'm sure you're going to notice a jump in audio quality, and perhaps you notice that I might be lost in my discussion. That's because while I was recording, a phone call came in, and anyway, so I'm now done with that rather. So I'm now going to try and pick up the podcast recording from where we were. And don't worry, in future, I promise, I'm going to get a computer and start podcasting the right way, in quote. But for now, I prefer to just record directly into the phone and get it going so that I can drop these podcast episodes as often as possible. Because I'm scared that if I get a computer, get a proper room, get a proper mic, this thing is going to become too much work and I'm going to fall behind, or I might stop doing it entirely. Because for now, the ease of recording is something that makes it easy for me to go on. So hopefully we don't get another interruption. And I'm sure some of you will find it miraculous that I've been at this for over 400 episodes. And this is only the third or second time that I have been interrupted with a phone call. Okay, so now back to where we were. I think I was talking about figuring out what the real reasons are, and that we should ask questions, I think. This is the advantage of being interrupted at a live session, because there's always someone who remembers exactly where you guys were. Okay, so I think I was at the point where I was talking about empathizing with them, yes, and asking questions. So you can say, my sister, everything is expensive these days, but when you say the price is too high, you mean compared to what? That is a move I've seen somebody do at the last bridal fair. My video guy, he started off empathizing by, my dear, this Buhari economy, blah, blah, blah. And then that was the angle, basically, that when you say the price is too high, what exactly are you comparing it to? Now, a question like this is going to get you some information on the other alternatives that the person has been looking at. And then with this info, you're going to be able to make a case-by-case comparison on which is better, which is worse. You'll be able to educate them on what they're missing out, blah, 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 stuff like that. Wedding photographers get this all the time. The person says, your price is too high. Well, if you ask, the price is too high compared to what? And I say, compared to what I'm getting from Kunle Photography. Kunle is giving me this number of images, this size of photo book, and this, that. And that's the point where you can say, Kunle is ripping you off. Actually, this photo book is too small. The size is offering you 8 inches. I know to you it looks like it's a big deal, but trust me, it's not going to work when you're talking about 150 images crammed into an 8-inch book. In fact, the industry standard here in Abuja is 12 inches, blah, blah, blah. Now you guys can have that conversation, and you're going to be able to shift shift the yardstick. Yeah, you're going to be able to shift the yardstick and the comparison, so that at the end of the day, she'll now realize that what she thought was a bargain, that because she was dropping 200k with Kunle, and she's getting 2 8-inch photo books and maybe 3 10-inch frames or something, and she thought was a massive deal. She'll now see that yours, even though yours cost 400 or 450, actually might seem more valuable, because the frames that you're offering are 16 by 12, and maybe the photo book you're offering is 12 by 16 or something. It might seem much more valuable because they're getting a better finish, larger sizes, and stuff like that. But you're not going to know except if you ask the question, because what most of you do is you're expensive, and you start dropping the price, and maybe you match the price of Kunle Photography, which is what she said in the beginning, but at the end of the day, it was an unfair comparison from the beginning, because what you're offering and what Kunle is offering, definitely not the same, especially for those of you who are wedding planners. I know that there's some of you wedding planners that have a really bespoke experience from the beginning until the end. Basically, you're like a concierge. You walk them through everything vendor meetings, dress fittings, blah blah blah. I mean, there's some people that do top-notch concierge from A to Z, and then there's some people that collect money and all they do really is just on the day coordination, as they call it. So it's not the same. So you have to ask that question. So my price is too high, compared to what? You have to find your own way, your own verbiage of digging in, because with the information, you're going to be able to now make case by case comparisons. You'll be able to educate the customer, and you'll be able to move the transaction forward. Then you can also educate, like I said, and re-qualify the potential customer. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, qualification is just the process that we go through of asking questions to be sure that we're speaking to the right customer in the first place. Because I want to be sure that the person we're talking to has a want, they have a need that our product or service can fulfill. That's really important, because I don't want to waste my time talking to a bride who's looking for highly stylized and sophisticated wedding photography, because what I do is candid. And if she's looking for all that stylized stuff, she wants me to Photoshop her on the moon, I can't do that. So there's no point in having that conversation with the bride. Have the qualifying conversation in the beginning and sort out people based on their needs and who you can help. So that whole want, need, and whether we can fulfill that want or need is really important. We also want to be sure that they have a reasonable time frame for taking action. There's no point of talking to a bride in 2022 when she thinks she might be getting married in 2027 and the guy just proposed but the family hasn't had a meeting, and there are just too many ifs there. They're thinking of 5 years from now. The families haven't even met. The proposal was on how do they say it these days? They say low key or something. Like it was a low key proposal. Like they proposed, but it's only between two of them. They haven't told anybody else or something. Just too many ifs. So don't bother with that. But then if you're speaking to a bride who they proposed, the family have met, they picked a date 8 months from now, and they've dropped a deposit on the wedding hall. That person seems much more serious and much more qualified. So we should be having conversations with that person. So that's the idea behind a qualified customer, and qualified customers are the best people to be having conversations with with them. If you don't figure this out early, then the chances are you are just wasting your time. So if you're talking to Buhari's daughter, and Buhari's daughter has just been proposed to, but there's no possible wedding date in sight yet, and because elections are going on, families have not even met, and so Buhari is more concerned about APC and is Tinubu going to win and all whatnot. Maybe that's not really a qualified bride. You should still hang on to her phone number though, and find some other sales processes to run in the meantime, so that you're still nurturing the relationship, so that by the time the election is over and people have moved on, things have settled down, and the marriage agenda is now back on the table, you're going to be able to get back in play. But that's the idea, basically, and those are the criteria. What's the need? What's the want? Does it look like they're going to be able to take action anytime soon? Is there any sense of urgency? And do we have the same expectations around money? So basically what I'm saying is only talk to qualified customers. So now back to pricing concerns. So when someone says your price is too high, it's possible that they say that because you weren't speaking to a qualified client in the first place. You're probably talking to someone who has unrealistic expectations about the market for your product or your service, just like with the example that I gave earlier with Kunle Wedding Photography and what it is that Kunle is providing for his clients. Any wedding photographer listening to this who is named Kunle, please know I'm not talking about you. I just pulled that name out randomly. So in this case, education would be a good idea. Educate them, give them a price range, a brief tour of what's available on the market, and then after that you try and gauge how comfortable they are with this new price information, and that will help determine where to move next. So you can say in the market for XYZ, you can expect anything between 1M and 2.5, depending on what you're looking for, whether you're looking for features A, B, or C. So what exactly are you looking for, and which price range are you comfortable with? So substitute XYZ and 1M and 2.5 to whatever it is. So you can say in the market for wedding planning, you can expect to get anything between 1M and 2.5, depending on whether you're looking for a full concierge service, whether you're just looking for wedding coordination, or whether you're expecting me to book the vendors for you. So what are you expecting with all these things that I've mentioned so far? What are you expecting, and what price range are you comfortable with? So You will find that bride who will say 1M. I beg. Um, you know, you'll get that kind of reaction. That gives you a fair sense that this is probably not the bride for you. Now, again, I'm just pulling these figures out of my head. I don't know what wedding planners charge in Abuja and in Lagos, so I don't know what the fair price is. I'm just pulling figures out of my head. So, if actually this is the going rate in Abuja between 1M and 2.5, then it's obvious that this bride doesn't have realistic expectations. She doesn't know what's out there in the market. Maybe you should just let this thing pass on by. So if you didn't do a good job of qualifying them before, taking this approach gives you an opportunity to start figuring out what it is that they need and what a realistic budget for this person should be. And in cases like this, I really think it's a good idea to send them back into the market. If she says 1 million, on top waiting, just let her go. Tell her to go and do her research. She will go, and maybe she might find that there are some 900k people, but that in Abuja, assuming that between 1M and 2M is like the going rate, eventually she will find that, well, you can stretch it and find a 900k person, but there's definitely no 800, there's definitely no 700. And in that case, your offering is not going to seem so unrealistic after all. And you guys probably can talk again at a later date, because it's possible for you to move a 900k person into 1M, or a 1.5 person into 1.6, or maybe 1.7. You know, it's doable. Hard, but doable. So, let me see. Yeah, there are also some professionals who say that when some people say the price is too high, what's at stake, it's a confidence issue, because they don't have confidence in you, your product, or your service. And that's something that I made reference to early in the first recording. At least I hope I made reference to that. So in these cases, you can ask the question, is the price too high? Or is it that you're not confident that I can deliver on everything we have discussed? You should be upfront about this. Tackle the question head on. It's a useful question to ask, because it gets to the root. It will help you get to the root of what they feel insecure with about you, or about the product, or the service. Because if you don't know what the issues are, you can't address them. You know, it's something I've said over and over and over again. So let's internalize that. If you really don't know what the issues are, you can't address them. So it's possible that they feel insecure because you're too young and inexperienced. So maybe you're one of those people like me, who looks baby-faced. You know, at my age, I'm surprised I'm still baby-faced, and sometimes it's flattering that I run into people who still think I'm 30 or 32, and yeah, it's really flattering. So if you're baby-faced like me, and maybe you're on the slim, small side, you know, people will be like, what does this guy think? Or what does this girl think? I mean, who does she think she is? She probably just graduated in 2021 from Babcock or something. So they're looking at you, and they feel insecure because you might be too young and inexperienced. And if you're able to get to the root of these things, then you're going to know how to argue your case. That if it's an age thing, you're going to be able to say that, oh yes, you've only been in industry for 3 years, but actually in those 3 years you've handled 50, you've shot 50 weddings, or you've planned 50 weddings, and you have, out of those 50, you have 27 of those clients who are so happy that they said they're willing to give a testimonial on the spot. And in fact, I can give you the phone number of one of them right now, so you can have a conversation, you know, something like that. And then you can also try and persuade them that, well, yeah, even though you're only 3 years in the market, apart from the fact that you have 50 clients, all your installation guys have 15 years experience. So let's say you're a wedding planner, for instance. Yeah, it's something you can play up. Now, all the people that you work with, they all have 15 years experience, or 5 years experience, or whatever. So when they set up the decorations and the truss rods and the lighting and the everything is going to work okay. Nothing is going to fall or crash or disappear or whatever, although you only work with materials of XYZ quality, and on and on. Of course, you apply to your own situation. So these are ways that you can bolster your credibility and show that you're competent and justify your original asking price. So when someone says that the price is too high, let's remember, you shouldn't start arguing the matter, because it's a complicated issue. They might be crying foul for a number of reasons that you don't know. So you're better off trying to calm the situation down, ask a couple of questions, get to the root of their concerns, and then make your best replies as to what you think is really going on in their mind. So next time someone says that's so expensive, that's too expensive, for where 1M, God forbid, I know they pay. Don't get defensive. Don't start justifying yourself. Ask them questions. Figure out where they're really coming from. Because if you don't know where they're coming from, remember, you're not going to know where you have to lead the conversation to. And so that's it for today. I think I've done 30 minutes. I'm getting into the habit now of doing 30-minute recordings. At the next recording, I'll try and scale it back to our normal 10-15 minutes. So thanks for listening to today's recording. I value your time and attention. I'll catch you guys at the next recording.